Welcome to the EDC's Vision of Progress. I'm your host, Nathan Sparks, and today we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, a key component of any successful economic development strategy. We actually have two segments today. We'll be talking with Dr. Joyce Gillie Gossom. Dr. Gossom, Joyce, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Nathan. It's good to be here.
Well, and you and I had a great experience recently that we're going to be talking about in this first segment. And we'll get to that in just a minute, but then in the second segment, we're going to talk about the EDC's roundtable event that was also tied to entrepreneurship down the same vein. And I think that our viewers today are really going to enjoy some of what we have to say. So again, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
So entrepreneurship, you know, I think folks have a general sense of what we're talking about when we say entrepreneurship. The entrepreneur that comes to mind is, you know, the friendly dry cleaners on the corner or the small cafe that people frequent. You know, entrepreneurs are everywhere. And I was really surprised to find just how much that is the case, particularly in our community.
Yes.
You know, there are over 9,400 businesses in Okaloosa County. And of those, more than 6,000 have fewer than 5 employees. So small business truly drives our local economy, and that's why I think this topic is so important, and that's why I'm so pleased that you've embraced the subject as well, and that we've been able to do some exploring together and learn about some things that we think might have merit for our local area. So again, thank you for that. You had the great foresight to reach out to the EDC, Joyce, and to connect us with someone who is a dear friend of yours, Dr. Susan Amat, who is the founder of an organization called Venture Hive that we'll talk about shortly. But talk to us about your connection to Susan and how you came to the realization that this was something that made sense for us to explore together.
Susan and I are classmates. We were in Leadership Florida Class 31 together. And that very first day, you do a big round circle and everyone gets up and introduces him or herself.
Right.
When I listened to Susan talk about what she was doing, and at that time she was at the University of Miami, I thought, wow, this is really different. It's a different take on entrepreneurship, and it's something that I'd like to find out more about.
Right. Well, and you know, obviously Venture Hive it's unique in many respects, as we've come to find. And it was obviously clear from the outset when we had our initial conversation with Susan that led to our trip to Miami. But, you know, folks hear the word incubator, and many in our audience may have had an experience in another community with an incubator. And people hear incubator and they think of a place where small businesses come together and have an opportunity to share an environment that's collaborative, and generally it's a space that is offered at reduced rent rates, recognizing small businesses are working to grow capital and to become sustainable. But I think it's fair to say that Venture Hive is not your ordinary incubator. Would you say that's the case?
Absolutely. It's very different, both in the way it's set up.
Right.
It's not just typical, what is it called, Class A office space layout.
Right.
It's open, large open spaces so that everyone at Venture Hive can collaborate and work with each other. It's got so many unique features, and I know we're going to talk about some of those, but one that relates to that topic is there are no competing businesses within Venture Hive.
Right.
And that's very unique, because sometimes you'll find, you know, similar companies or similar entrepreneurs within the same incubator.
Right.
And that's not the case with Venture Hive.
Absolutely, and that is something that resonated for me, frankly. You know, one principle that Venture Hive subscribes to is creating a trusting environment where the tenants, the partners within those four walls, know that they can trust one another, know that they're working with a collaborative, common purpose, and that they're all there to assist one another when needed. That was something that clearly I think is a differentiator for Venture Hive. I think it's something that has allowed them to be successful. And let's mention too the fact that they've only been at this for 18 months.
That's right, and they've already made over a $7 million economic impact just in Miami.
Right.
That's amazing.
It truly is. It truly is. And you know, at their root, they are a technology-oriented business incubator and accelerator. But that is so encompassing. Obviously, technology is an encompassing term to begin with. And as we got to learn more about Venture Hive through our travels and through our conversations, we learned that they are set up with certain sectors in mind. They call them verticals.
Right.
And the verticals that they focused on are obviously specific to what Miami is known for: fashion, international trade, technology, things of that sort. But again, I think it's a good arrangement in the sense that they are cognizant of their local environment, and they're focusing on incubating and accelerating businesses within that local environment that make sense for their local economy.
Exactly.
It's just a very methodical approach that they have.
Absolutely. And I love the term that Susan uses, ecosystem.
Right.
She's created, and she and the other staff have created an ecosystem within Venture Hive that encourages, nurtures, and allows for cross-pollination, if you will,
Right.
of all of the businesses that are within the Hive, so that if I'm working on a way for people who don't have checking accounts to be able to pay for things via, a credit card or,
Right.
electronically, I may collaborate with someone who's doing a website for hairstylists, and those ideas come together, and both of them walk away with a better product ultimately for their consumers and for their market. And it's fascinating, as opposed to people sitting in cubicles being isolated from each other.
I agree. It was very collaborative. And our viewers will be able to see some of the images of Venture Hive, which will show them that firsthand.
Yes.
One thing that struck me too is these businesses that are there being incubated and accelerated. They're not all new businesses or new entrepreneurs. These are the global elite of entrepreneurship that have come to Miami to take their business to the next step. And then one thing that really struck me was the fact that you may remember Susan sharing with us that they have some businesses, some entrepreneurs within their structure there that have had great success already, and who have in fact made millions of dollars building and selling businesses. But they are still there in that setting and providing that experience to their fellow entrepreneurs, providing that insight, providing that mentorship. And I think that's incredibly beneficial to have that level of talent there assisting those who might be just getting started.
Exactly. Well, and I think, Nathan, that also leads to why Venture Hive is different. And one of the factors that makes it different is its focus is not really on developing your sales pitch and developing your marketing strategy, although that's a part of it.
Right.
The focus is actually on developing the entrepreneurs themselves.
Right.
And that's the paradigm shift, if you will. That's the tipping point that makes it so different and so unique,
Right.
at least for me. And that was what caught my attention and became so intriguing. They go through a very rigorous 12-week instructional program, learning about how do you hire people, how do you select people, how do you operate the business from a financial standpoint,
Right.
how do you run the business operationally, how do you deal with those other aspects of running a business that, as you and I both know, and I know firsthand from running a business, that those are the things that will put you out of business faster than not having a quality service or quality product.
Right. Yeah, Susan, on that point, Susan shared with us, as you'll recall, that there is a great emphasis they place on the right people. That getting the right people is really paramount to ensuring success. Getting people who have the right characteristics, the right passion, the right drive. We know those are things that are inherent to all successful entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
It's one thing to have a great business plan.
Yes.
It's one thing to have a great idea, but if you don't have that inner drive,
Yes.
and you don't have the ability to collaborate and work well with others, then chances are you're not going to be successful. I mean, as we've discussed, so many businesses fail in that first year or first 3 years, and that's why.
Exactly. And don't forget, one of the caveats as they're selecting businesses and entrepreneurs to come and participate in the Hive is that they want to be in Miami.
Right.
So they're not just coming to Miami to get the benefit of the instruction and the training and the collaboration, and then they're going back to wherever they came from or going someplace else.
Right.
They're staying, they're bringing their families, they're moving and becoming residents and participants in the Miami structure and infrastructure.
Exactly, and I think that's precisely why the Miami-Dade County mayor was so instrumental in incubating the idea for Venture Hive. As you'll recall, Susan explained that the mayor approached her about using her expertise and experience to create this conduit for small business growth, technology-oriented small business growth in downtown Miami. And I thought that was very interesting to hear that this was, something that the political leadership of the community recognized. Do you think that's an important part of this?
Absolutely. I think any venture, if you will, such as that,
right,
it really can't be as productive as it could be without the support. Just the capital alone to establish it would have been staggering
right,
if Susan and Louis had to fund all of that themselves.
Right.
I mean, they were given the facility to use and were allowed to reconfigure and build it out the way they needed to.
Right.
In fact, remember, she told us that the day that they showed up to start painting the building, they had to escort several homeless members of the community who had been living
right,
in that building. So, no, the city didn't give them, a 12-story high-rise, but they gave them a facility that they then did not have to turn around and pay rent for,
right,
just the utilities and those kinds of things. So yes, it's very important, I think, that the political leaders in whatever community are supportive and push their sleeves up and get to work.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly, and we're very blessed to have you in the role that you're in as a Fort Walton Beach City Councilwoman, being so innovative in your thought regarding entrepreneurship, and we greatly appreciate it. And I found our visit to be very enlightening. I think that certainly it's served the purpose of planting seeds with both of us,
yes,
that we look forward to moving forward with in the future. So we're going to take a short break.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and we'll talk about our Economic Development Council's Entrepreneurship Roundtable, which actually featured Dr. Susan Amat from Venture Hive, among others. We'll be right back.
The Hoover Dam can hold over 9 trillion gallons of water. How? Its arch construction diverts pressure into its neighboring canyon walls. The same principle applies in business. You must find support from the right partners who can help make you stronger. Choose a partner who is able to support you in every way. Cox Business.
Welcome back to the Economic Development Council Vision of Progress. I'm your host, Nathan Sparks, and today we've been talking with Joyce Gossom from the Fort Walton Beach City Council. Joyce, welcome back.
Thank you.
In this segment, we're going to be talking about the recent Economic Development Council's Roundtable event that occurred last month, focused on entrepreneurship. And Joyce, as you know, throughout the course of this year, the EDC has been celebrating our 25th anniversary, something that we're very proud of. 1989 doesn't seem like all that long ago, but it's certainly an occasion worth celebrating, and we've been using it as an opportunity to look to the future.
Yes.
And we've been doing that, as you know, through these roundtables that we've been hosting each quarter. And so far this year, we've had roundtables focused on workforce and education in the new economy, transportation in the new economy, foundational components of economic development, truly. we were already down the path of planning a roundtable segment focused on entrepreneurship and fostering a culture of entrepreneurship. And I consider it serendipity that you called me when you did to talk about Venture Hive and introduce me to your friend Susan Amat, because clearly Venture Hive is a tremendous entrepreneurship engine. And so when we had our conversation with Susan, it was clear that she would be a great panelist on our panel. And
Yes.
And truly, she proved to be that. So our panel quickly got a shot in the arm. Susan was joined by two equally compelling individuals with great stories to tell on that panel at the roundtable, as you recall. We had Louis Erickson, co-founder of Bit-Wizards, a tremendous technology organization, great local success story. We also had Blaire Martin with the Florida Angel Angel Nexus, FAN as they call it. Here to talk about capital formation and the importance of seed capital for entrepreneurs. So it was I felt a very strong panel. We were very fortunate to have such a strong panel. Well, what were your impressions of that event?
I think that it was, if I may, probably the best of all three roundtables. Each one certainly added something for our community. I think just gauging from the audience and from the interactiveness and the questions afterward, I think this one really resonated. I think people felt like they could actually get engaged, do something, and become involved. It's difficult for the average person to do something about transportation. It's more difficult for us to do something specifically about jobs or workplace. But almost everyone has that spirit of entrepreneurship within them. And so I think the three panel members, you did a brilliant job of putting those three individuals together and getting people engaged and involved and excited.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your kind words, and I would agree with you. We've gotten great feedback from all those who were in attendance, and certainly, I think the purpose of our roundtable is to build dialogue in the community and to plant seeds on subjects that are important to the future of our local economy. And clearly, I think this one accomplished that. So
Absolutely.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, I reflected on the roundtable, and I remember at the outset, by the way, Dr. David Getch, a friend to all of us, was a tremendous moderator.
Yes.
As he always is.
Yes.
And you may recall at the outset, he had a definition of what an entrepreneur is. Do you recall what he said?
It was a great definition. It was succinct and precise. He said that an entrepreneur was someone who saw a need and worked to meet that need based on what the market wanted and desired.
Right.
And that's exactly what an entrepreneur is. It's someone who is aware enough, observant enough, and listens well enough to the community, to the market, and realizes there's a gap between what is and what is needed.
Right.
And then fills that need.
Absolutely.
It was great.
I agree. And as we discussed, someone who has that drive to execute.
Yes, poor, hungry, and driven.
That was his other definition at the end of the meeting that I
That's
thought
right.
was great, was spot on. Poor,
Yes.
hungry, and driven. So obviously, of the panelists, we had Louis Erickson to kick things off. Our local entrepreneur success story. Bit-Wizards has been around since 2000, so they're now in their 14th year. They're a homegrown enterprise, started in Shalimar, now based in Fort Walton Beach, have grown over time. And not only are they a local success story, but they're getting some much-deserved state and national recognition. They've been featured in Florida Trend as one of the top 5 companies in all of Florida to work for. They've also recently been named yet again to the Inc. 5000 list of growing, high-growth private sector businesses. So clearly, they are a business that is a poster child, if you will, of entrepreneurship success. And Louis had some great things to say, but I'm just curious, what from Louis's remarks really stuck with you?
I think the fact that Louis started his company similar to Venture Hive. He started the company so that it would be a place for engineers.
Right.
Software designers, software programmers are everywhere. that type of engineer, they're everywhere.
Sure.
He realized that they tended to move from company to company because no one place gave them everything they wanted. Right. The camaraderie, the collegiality, the trust, the flexibility, the work-life balance, all of those things.
Right.
And so Louis really started Bit-Wizard to be a place where engineers would want to work. And I think that's brilliant, because didn't he share with us that some of the same people that he initially began the business with are still with him now?
Yes.
And then he took it one step further, and rather than locating Bit-Wizards in a place filled with engineers or filled with technology companies, he decided that to further that work-life balance, he would bring them here.
Right.
Because of the quality of place that it offered.
Yes, no, I thought it was outstanding, and we recently had Vince Mayfield, Lewis's partner, on this show, and he echoed much of Lewis's sentiments that really, for them, it's about creating that collaborative environment where, the employees know that they're valued and they have a good lifestyle balance, and certainly they find that this is a good environment to recruit talent to, and that's something that we know is critically important to a business that's really on the cutting edge of technology.
Absolutely.
So it's a great example of what we can do more of.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of the Florida Angel Nexus and Blaire Martin, their executive director, obviously the Florida Angel Nexus is geared toward helping communities develop angel investor networks to really assist with that critical piece of capital formation. We know every new business, every idea requires capital to get established and capital to continue forward to success. So this is a key piece, ensuring that we have the right mechanisms to provide that seed capital in a meaningful way. So we were very pleased that Blaire came up from Orlando to be part of this. They have Florida Angel Nexus has a statewide vision. They've recently formed, so they are still early in the process, but that statewide vision is something that we would like to see move up our way.
Right.
What did Blaire have to say that really stuck with you, Joyce?
I think Blaire captured what makes entrepreneurs different. And I think she delivered a message that for people like you as the EDC executive director, people like me who serve in local government, that we have to remember, and that is entrepreneurs don't have time to do those networking things that maybe corporate employees have time to do, because they are busy figuring out what they need to do. How are they filling that need? Or as David said, they're poor, hungry, and driven.
Right.
And so we have to remember that, I think, as a community, and that resonated with me when Blaire said that. We have to find ways to make it possible for the entrepreneur to become a part of the community without taking them away from their primary focus, which is starting their business.
Absolutely, excellent point. Well, last but certainly not least, Susan Amat, our friend, really, truly captivated the audience with her story.
She did.
Obviously, she is an entrepreneur herself, and Venture Hive was her entrepreneurial passion and continues to be that passion. Why don't we break away for a minute and watch a clip of Susan's presentation?
That'd be great.
Excellent.
So what we've done is we have a 12-week intensive program. They cry almost every day. It's pretty bad. So it's 12 weeks of 2 to 5 hours a day it's a structured mentorship-driven program with a very deep curriculum. Then they get additionally a year of free space in our program, so their chances of staying are much more likely because they're ingrained to think that they're going to be there for a year. They get a $25,000 non-equity grant. So I have some of the top investors and accelerators all over the world sending companies to us, which has been awesome. And in a very short period of time, within 5 months of us starting, we became the entrepreneurship education partner for the U.S. State Department. And just this May, we were asked by Microsoft to host the first Microsoft Innovation Center in the U.S. in Miami, because our approach is very different. Because we don't take equity, and because we focus on world-class support for high-growth technology entrepreneurs, in a way that nobody in the world is doing, we've been able to really position ourselves to be that haven for entrepreneurs. We have people in our building we have 2 guys who sold their last business for $300 million. So you would think, oh, they should be mentors then. Guess what? Everybody needs good support. So yes, they come in and mentor some of our other companies, but every other week they're meeting with my team and we're helping them be better CEOs and CTOs.
So obviously, Susan had some interesting things to say about their structure there.
Absolutely.
You know, in terms of the equity piece, obviously they address that, and it's a situation where they're not taking equity in the businesses, which creates that environment of trust that we talked about earlier.
Right.
They're creating that collaborative environment where they can, the businesses that are occupying the incubator know that they can rely on Susan and her team to give them the good advice and the tools they need to be successful without worrying about whether the motivations of what they're doing have to do with profit.
Absolutely.
That's really what resonated with me, and clearly Susan is just passionate about what she's doing, and I'm sure our audience could pick up on that. What did you take away from Susan's comments there, Joyce?
I have to say that the passion that Susan displayed when she was here for the roundtable is exactly why I was intrigued way back at the very first day of our Leadership Florida session. Susan has figured out that without that climate of trust, the accelerator, incubator, or combination of the two really never can become what it could become.
Right.
And I think the fact that she's built that in not only in terms of Venture Hive not taking equity, but as we mentioned earlier, not having any 2 businesses that provide the same type of service, then she goes one step further, and I'm not sure that people who were watching the clip but who weren't at the roundtable would pick that up. She goes one step further, and the investors cannot have competing investors outside of the Hive as well.
Yeah, no, it's an outstanding model, and you know, as we continue to peel back the layers and continue to build our dialogue with Susan, I think you and I both have become more excited about what she's doing and the lessons that we can borrow as we think about cultivating a greater level of entrepreneurship in our local economy.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly why we do these things. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but we're out of time. I've so much enjoyed this conversation, Joyce, and it has been a delight as always. Thank you for coming on our program. I look forward to our continued efforts together.
Thanks, Nathan. I do too.
Thank you, Joyce. And thank you for watching our Vision of Progress program. It's been our pleasure to bring this information to you. And I encourage you to get involved. Keep an eye out for that next Economic Development Council Roundtable, and we'd love to have you. Thank you.